This is KCBD News Channel 11 at 6.
People should remember, like, how many people he's touched. I think that's been probably the coolest thing that's come out of the day.
Texas Tech fans, alumni, and former players are mourning today. Former head football coach Mike Leach died in Mississippi after suffering a heart attack. Good evening, and thank you for joining us.
Mike Leach, whether you loved him or not, was undeniably a winning coach and had a huge following here even after he left Lubbock. Leach suffered a massive heart attack Sunday evening and died in Jackson, Mississippi last night. Leach is remembered for his contributions to the game and his colorful commentary on nearly anything else. His most recent win was the Ole Miss-Mississippi State rivalry on Thanksgiving, known as the Egg Bowl. That was the last game of his third regular season with the Bulldogs. Prior to that, Leach turned around the Washington State program over 9 seasons, a repeat performance of his time at Texas Tech. He is the Red Raiders' winningest coach, including the mythic 2008 season where Texas Tech won 11 games and beat Texas at home. Along with his wins, Leach's firing is well placed in the minds of Red Raiders when the university terminated his contract at the end of the 2009 season. Legal battles would follow over the next decade while he built programs at Wazoo and Mississippi State. Mike Leach's final record across 21 seasons as a head coach, 158 to 107. He died at the age of 61. Those who knew the coach, affectionately known as the Pirate, say he changed the face of Texas Tech football and the lives of many he had the opportunity of meeting and coaching. KCBD News Channel 11's Joshua Ramirez joins us live from the Jones with the reaction of this sudden loss.
Well, Karen and Abner, Mike Leach was the winningest head football coach in Texas Tech history. From his innovative offense to his iconic post-game one-liners, those who were closest to him say he was truly one of a kind.
It seems surreal. It's hard to comprehend all the things that we experienced and went through. 2000 to 2009 was indeed a wild ride for the Texas Tech football program, its fans, and the entire city of Lubbock. Mike Leach brought a new energy to the program. From the air raid offense to his sometimes comical interview responses, Leach was truly one of a kind.
What time do we play anyway? 11:30. I don't know. You start earlier. And it's better than going to Waco, but not quite as good as playing in Jones Stadium.
I thought practice was pretty good. We had a few notable exceptions that they're running around the stadium still as we speak.
He was certainly quirky. The mold, you hear people say the mold was broken, and that is certainly the case here.
Many expressed their love and respect on social media after Leach's passing. During his time with Tech, Leach filled many roles: a coach, a teacher, a role model, and in ways that only he could. Former Red Raider Lau Leong says he knew Leach was different after they met for the first time.
No one came to my door but him. He came with a magic trick and you know, some corny jokes.
It was a night that helped shape Leong's career as a player and a coach. He hopes one day he can be remembered just as fondly.
When we end our career, hopefully people will say those same type things of how we, not only in the football world, helped, but we helped people be better people.
Another past Red Raider, Graham Harrell, spent hours talking game plans with Mike Leach as a starting quarterback. He says he learned a lot more than just X's and O's in those conversations.
It didn't matter if you were sitting in quarterback meetings or what you were doing. You'd be on the sideline and he'd be calling 7-on-7 or something when someone else was in, and he'd be talking to you about who knows what.
Those discussions continued even after Harrell left Tech.
When he called me and told me I'm putting my son down to bed or something, and then we'd get in a 2-hour texting conversation instead of a phone call. But it was, he was one of a kind.
An attitude symbolized by a saying Leach coined: "Swing your sword," a way to remind his team to be fearless on and off the gridiron.
I mean, he would give a long speech on it, but I think it meant like don't be scared to go attack. We get the chance, we're going after him.
One thing is for sure, Leach did it his way, unconditionally and without apology. A true Red Raider, a true Pirate.
You've got to find your inner pirate. A lot of times things just happen for a reason. We don't know why God wants it that way, but you can't make the best out of it until you get back your inner pirate.
Stadium, there is an image of former coach Leach on the Jumbotron over the football field. And tonight, I'm told the university will hold a moment of silence in his honor at the men's basketball game. Karen and Abner.
What a legacy he leaves. Thank you, Joshua.